because I think it's very important for young people to understand the importance of social enterprise. It's got a phenomenal future. I'm a product designer from NIB. I did industrial design. I graduated in 1986. And since we were very close to IIM Ahmedabad, it always used to hassle me that why all these IIM guys go out and sell chocolate? Why do they go and sell Cadbury's chocolate? Why do they go and sell Hindustan Lever soaps? Because those must be the easiest things on earth to sell in any case. So why are our best minds in the country going after IITs and IIMs and joining these multinationals and doing, I would think, fairly easy jobs? I don't think there's something highly taxing on how to market soap and chocolate. So that's why I'm here, to be very frank. Okay, we started industry. In NID, what happened was that we were trained, we were sent out on things called environmental exposure and things like rural exposure. So we worked closely with rural producers. And when I did product design, I noticed that Indian industry was really not investing in design. So if I have to design a better mixie, or I have to design a better TV, most Indian industrialists found it just easier to rip off a Western product. So, I mean, there was not much use for us. I sort of went against the trend and said, I will work with craft. And once I worked with these people, I realized that, well, this is, I think, India's huge, secret, hidden skill base. We have, if you look at an Indian village, it's 70% of India's population lives in its villages, right? I say 40 million, but it's far more. It's about 100, 200 million. Okay? Now these people are fantastically skilled. They made everything of Indian consumption pre-industrial revolution. The industrial revolution is 150, 200 years old. We were a phenomenally successful economy. We had, of course, people starving, and we had famines and all sorts of other problems. But we were a very, very, very self-sufficient economy. So, industry's mandate is, we started in 1994. This was a company we co-founded. We started a for-profit. So, don't ever start an NGO if you want to do anything social. Please start a for-profit. So, we started a private limited company in 1994, saying that we need to give these people orders. So, we need to give them business. So, we would go, we would design products with these people, and we would give them orders, and we started a store called Industry, and we took investment from, my co-founder is a lady from Chennai called Mrs. Geeta Ram. She's from the TVS family. And we ran the company, we started some exports, we made losses and blah, blah, blah. And at some point we realized that we cannot really go with the money we would potentially, we never made any money. If we ever made any money from the private company, it would never be enough to go and really capacity build these people in the villages. It would be enough to place orders and get goods and sell it. So we could become retailers, but we could never do anything about the supply chain. Now the problem is that the supply chain is completely and totally flawed. I took an investment from Future Group. I attended a course called Social Impact run by an American NGO. I think post-2000 and post-2005, one started thinking a little more seriously about how one is going to scale up this business. Because we were at about 3-4 crores turnover, 4 crores turnover. With 4 crores turnover, how many people are you going to impact? And we were doing retail, we had 3-4 stores. We were doing exports. We've exported to IKEA, we've exported to Crate and Barrel. So we were seeing all the problems in the supply chain. And we were buying from NGOs, small co-ops, and we were seeing the response we were getting from those NGOs and small co-ops. And we were realizing that there has to be a dramatic change in how we do things. So post my course in Social Impact, I give a lot of credit to that course, because that was a course which taught us about scaling up. This is why I was asking this gentleman, what is the scale-up model? Because it's okay, you go up to a point, you will plateau, but then no. So on scale-up, 3 months into the course, it became immediately clear to me what needs to be done. What needs to be done is, you need to get an investor. You need money to scale up. And so I approached Kishore Vyari. I said, we have to create markets for rural artisans. He said, Acha hai, you can't open craft shops. Because see, if you want to succeed in retail, it's an art and a science. Not everybody can do retail. Retail is like complex. And I realized by then that one can't do so much. He said, okay, you want to do something about craftspeople, so it means you want to do something about sustainability, right? Therefore, your brand is a sustainable brand. He sort of solved it in a minute. It would have taken us maybe 10 years to get to what he came to in a minute. Okay, you are a sustainable brand. You are a conscious consumption brand. Okay, so if people will come to you, they'll come for everything. So you must have earth food, earth fashion, earth home. He's got that roti kapda makan thing. Okay, so you will have food, you will have fashion, you will have home. We were just, I'm a product designer. We were strong in home. I said, okay, we'll do fashion. Fine. So we set up a fashion vertical. We took about, and at that point, being a for-profit really paid off. I mean, you guys are young, you know all this, you're all MBAs and all. We were just poor designers. So we didn't know all this. So it was, so because we were a for-profit, we sold about 40% of the company. I approached a lot of social investors. I approached Avishkar. I approached Bamboo. So they were all damn keen to invest. And then towards the end, they realized that they couldn't invest because they were foreign funds. So because we wanted to do multi-brand retail. So FDI laws don't allow foreign funds into FDI. Into multi-brand retail. So we just went ahead, took the money from Future Group. We took about 7 crores. And we sold about 40% of the company, and we've sold some more since then. Whenever we need money, we take it, blah, 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 all that is going on. And at that point, we decided that give ownership to producers in the brand. Because I realized with people like Fabergé and all, they give ownership to producers in the production companies. Fabergé has been a very good model, and we really learned a lot from them. They have set up 17 supplier relationship companies. So they have a brand company and they've got 17 companies where they've given producers up to 26% or 36% or whatever. And we said no, all the money is to be made in the brand. Okay? Wealth creation happens in brand. And artisans need access to that. Because at the end of the day, you're building your businesses on IPR, on intellectual property. If I'm going to sell an ikat product or I'm going to sell a lost wax cast boda, it's not my technique. This is their technique. So hence we thought it was only fair. So we've given a share of about, we started with 13%, put aside for producers in a mutually beneficial trust for them to buy at par. So an artisan can buy a share in my company for 100 rupees when I've sold to Future Group at about 2,000. And as the value keeps going up, so that's like a nest egg for it. And now, so that's the retail bit of it. What we learned was that you have to scale markets. So we scaled markets by opening a retail chain of stores, hopefully, Mother Earth. So we've got 5 stores and we have to open some 40 more in the next 5 years because of business plan and all that. And we got one CEO and all the rest of it. Now we have to set up a supply chain company. So this is all. This will create market, it will create demand. Now what's going to happen? How are the producers going to get out of their ruts? So our model is we look at a common interest group. We take a group of about 10 to 15 people and we give them a business plan. And we give them a market. Like you will make this chappal for me. Or we'll tell them, okay, we have a demand for this. We can sell 3 lakhs worth of leather wallets in a month across all our stores. So we make a plan and we look around for a leather person and we tell him, make a common interest group of about 10 to 15 people and here's a loan. So we give them a loan. So we've tied up with a, microfinance is a joke because 24% and all interest, you cannot now incubate enterprises and be competitive and all of that. So we get them loans at about 60% from an enterprise set up by ICICI Bank. They have something called IFMR Trust. IFMR Trust is invested in something called Rangde. Yeah. So Rangde gives our producers loans at 16%. So there's a huge market for those kind of enterprises also. If you set up a MISO loan for profit entity. I have 2-3 friends from the US trying to do that right now. So that's it. So we link them up at the back end. No. The front end. No, the back end, yeah. So Rangde gives them startup loans. We give them the business plan and the market buyback. So they own that enterprise 100%. It's theirs.